These videos are satiric reviews. You don't have to agree, but don't bitch about it.
Sting is one of the most recognizable men in face paint. He's a man who gave 3 decades to the business and supplied us all with memorable moments, unforgettable matches, and classic promos. A master of the ring and the mic alike, he has undoubtedly made a major impact in the industry. From his classic feuds with Ric Flair and Hollywood Hogan, he's earned fan support and title after title. The man is a former 2-time NWA World Champion, Television Champion, International Champion, a 6-time WCW Champion, a 2-time United States Champion, and a 3-time WCW Tag Champion. He's a former 4-time TNA World Champion, and a 1-time Tag Team Champion of that brand. He's a 3-time Hall of Famer, earning the praise in the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame, the TNA Hall of Fame, and the WWE Hall of Fame. He was voted the top singles wrestler of 1992 and Wrestler of the Year in 1990. His popularity was nearly unmatched during the late 80s all the way throughout the late 90s. Known for his on-screen on-again, off-again friendship with Lex Luger, his outstanding matches with Big Van Vader and Rick Rude, less known for his time working with Vampiro and a short-lived 1999 heel turn. Sting is an icon in professional wrestling, hence the nickname, The Icon. During all this time spent in the business, Sting actually almost never wrestled in the WWE. He'd spent the hottest period in wrestling history, the Monday Night Wars, working for their rival promotion WCW. And Sting was a loyal man, remaining with this company till its dying days. As the ship sank, Sting could have hopped aboard the SSWWF, as Vince McMahon was apparently interested in bringing the face-painted warrior to Raw or SmackDown. However, a promo between The Rock and Booker T quickly put that idea to bed. The Rock looked at WCW legend and WWF newcomer Booker T and asked, "Who are you?" The implication was that WCW wrestlers weren't stars on the same level as the WWF locker room, and that implication put Sting off. So he declined in coming to work for the company and turned down a program with Kurt Angle, allegedly. The following year they try again, this time trying to sweeten the pot with a Mania match against Stone Cold Steve Austin, which again, he declined. A few years later, he was hired by Jeff and Jerry Jarrett's TNA, where he'd continue his iconic run for 11 more years. Adding more titles to his title history, some more matches to his Legends resume, and adding more legitimacy overall to that company. Sting was the reason a lot of people tuned into TNA Impact, and he remained a main event guy till his last days with that company, despite being in his 50s. Sting was well past his prime, but still putting on matches guys half his age couldn't. There were a few times where the rumor mill began to spin, and it'd come out that Sting was going to join the WWE. The story goes that WWE even went so far as to film teaser promos for Sting's debut, when they gotten close to reaching an agreement. However, at the last minute, Sting re-signed to TNA, making WWE give those return promos to The Undertaker. Sting would then use return vignettes for TNA, which were almost identical to WWE's, because wrestling is a petty, petty, petty business. Sting made his long-awaited debut in November of 2014, attacking the heel group The Authority, and more notably, Triple H. This allowed Dolph Ziggler to win the match for his team at Survivor Series. It wouldn't be until January of 2015 that Sting would return once again. And with the shittiest entrance music of all time, apparently. And he returned to help John Cena get the win over Seth Rollins, Big Show, and Kane in a handicap match. A match in which Dolph Ziggler, Ryback, and Eric Rowan's careers were on the line. Triple H, infuriated with the sudden appearance of Brandon Lee's stunt double, challenged Sting to a match.
Sting, I want an answer.
And Heath Slater in Sting face paint would accept Triple H's challenge. Yeah, that's right. WWE, only having Sting for certain dates, decided to have him accept via a fake Sting. And not even a good one. Why didn't they just send Jeff Farmer out there? He didn't look anything like Sting either, but he got to play him for the better part of his career. In one of Sting's first vignettes in the company decided to change his voice for some reason.
I am the silencer of injustice. I am Sting. You need to be taken down. Game over.
Which completely took the wind out of his sail. Did they think that Sting didn't sound tough enough? Did they think that this would be intimidating? Was Sting supposed to talk like this after? What is this shit?
I mean, congratulations, Sting. Now you know what it feels like to make it to the big time. I've got to say...
Sting wasn't going to allow it to happen, and here comes Stephanie's husband. Trademark sledgehammer, me trademark back.
Regardless, at Fastlane, the two had a confrontation, and the world found out what happens when Bat meets Sledgehammer. Which, while not a match, was fun enough for its time on the pay-per-view. And with a point to the sign, the match was set for the biggest stage of them all, WrestleMania. He'd later help Randy Orton fight off the Authority and cut a promo, this time using his own voice, when the show went off air. Yeah, Sting's promo and first speaking in public to a WWE audience was off-air and a network exclusive, which, like his vignette, didn't do him any favors going forward. I mean, think about it. Here was this 50-something-year-old man in face paint taking on the company's big bad. Now, while Sting was a wrestling legend, an icon as I stated before, he still never entered a WWE ring at this time. Some of the WWE fans, especially the younger ones, had no idea who this man was, or why he had beef with Triple H. The reasoning for this feud was kind of sad. While they went out of their way to say that this wasn't about the now defunct WCW going against WWE,
I'm not here to fight for WCW. That would be ridiculous at this point.
it clearly was presented as if it was.
I've been known as the WCW soldier, and over the last 14 years, I've watched Triple H climb the ladder. Sting, the face of WCW.
When WCW perished, it fell under the watch of a broken authority.
WCW, the company I helped destroy.
I tried to save WCW. I failed.
And now 14 years later, Sting finally gathers up the guts to do something about it.
And I've been waiting 14 years to do it.
Because for 14 years, he stayed away. At Survivor Series 14 years later, Sting finally decides to take his shot. I'm not here to fight for WCW. That would be ridiculous at this point.
Sting represented the dead brand, and he wanted revenge on the company's corporate man for it. 15 years later. Not a moment too soon, I guess. The match that took place at Mania was less of a match and more of a nostalgic blend of the 90s. The whole thing was set around trying to mask whatever inabilities the aging Sting might have had in the ring, or whatever inabilities were assumed that he had in the ring, as they did very few wrestling moves.
Reversal, double reversal. Yeah, Triple H set over the top. Sting, whoa, man! A little bit of Stinger splash. He's lucky to be able to move out of the way at the last minute. Sting driven into the steps.
Full start. This is the WWE. This is WrestleMania.
Now Triple H with Sting up, going for a vertical suplex. And again, just remember, now the CEO of this company. I agree with you. I'm not arguing the point. And here we go. Spinebuster by Triple H. Triple H up to the second rope. Sting caught him. Sting caught him. Going for the scorpion kick again.
Eventually, Triple H's old stable buddies, DX, came out to aid their boy in battle, and Sting's old rivals, the NWO, came in his defense for some reason. Regardless, seeing these two teams duke it out was a dream match that never was. And again, like Sting's run in WWE, it was around 15 years too late. Despite this, it was a great spectacle and definitely supplied a WrestleMania moment for the ages.
Wait a minute! DX! And there goes Billy Gunn! And Sting Tunnels! Wait a minute! Oh Sting, what are you doing? Sting for the... Uh-oh. Oh no, pedigree time! Oh no! Oh, pedigree! What behind you? No! No! Damn it! Drop! Trying to get the sledgehammer! Oh no! Damn it! Fingertip away! And come on, Hogan! And Nash! And Billy Gunn takes out Nash! Oh my God! Oh my God! What? Shut up! No! Sweet Chin Music! Sweet Chin Music! There's total carnage outside the ring. Look at this. Billy got his hand on the sledgehammer. Triple H. Kings, get ready, Sting. Oh no, it's Scott Hogan. Sting the back. Damn you, Razor. Watch it. Back to the midsection. Triple H is down. Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh no. What? Sharp. Never thought I'd see this, King. Whoa.
The biggest negative of the match wasn't that they put entertainment before wrestling, but more so the conclusion of the match. Triple H went over on Sting on his debut at WrestleMania with a shot to the head from a sledgehammer, making him kind of seem a bit irrelevant right from the start. And despite getting hit in the head with a sledgehammer, just want to remind you, despite this all-out gang warfare that took place, Triple H offers his hand to Sting, and Sting takes it. Triple H isn't turning face here, and Sting definitely isn't turning heel. We've been through that, didn't work. They just shook hands after a sledgehammer shot. In what world would you shake the hand of a man who just hit you in the head with a sledgehammer? Though maybe I shouldn't be judging this guy for making a rash decision, considering he was just hit in the head with a sledgehammer. Did someone hit the creative team in the head with a sledgehammer? If so, this whole rivalry is starting to make a lot more sense.
When you talk about my match, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? What? Oh, come on.
But I think the big question that needs to be answered here is, if Triple H had the backing of none other than the Terminator, why didn't Sting think to get his old friend RoboCop to come out as his backup? And with that selfish move, the world is yet again denied the Terminator RoboCop match that we've all dreamed of. Why would you bring the NWO in to protect Sting? I mean, not only were they rivals in the past, but you actually referenced them in the build-up promos to this Mania match. And you made it seem like Sting was still devastated over the destruction of WCW that in storyline was caused by them. I mean, you can't even use the excuse that, oh, hey, they're ultimately all WCW guys and they were all one big family, because the NWO's goal was to end WCW. But if we take those leaps of logic out of the equation, this undoubtedly was a hell of a show, and is something that most wrestling fans will not live to forget. Following his loss, Sting went back into seclusion before making his return to Raw in August, where he interrupted WWE Champion Seth Rollins' statue reveal.
What the hell?
Which is actually probably the best thing he did in his WWE run. Sting then challenged Seth Rollins for his championship and spent the build-up taunting him.
Rough night, huh, Seth?
He had his first Raw match taking on Seth Rollins' stablemate, The Big Show. a guy Sting had crossed paths with once or twice back in the old WCW days. And during this match, he was attacked by Seth Rollins, bringing it to a close in his favor, because of disqualification. John Cena, who was also challenging Seth Rollins for his United States Championship, came to Sting's aid, and then it became a tag team match, playa. The match concluded with Sting and Cena standing tall, and for a moment, it seemed as if maybe Sting could be redeemed. Maybe they're going to build him back up. Maybe this could be a run worth watching. And then it happened. At Night of Champions, Sting finally met Seth for the belt, and the two put on a more than decent showing, especially considering both Sting's age and the fact that Seth had just wrestled and lost to John Cena. The two provided a good back and forth, and while it couldn't hold a candle to Sting and Flair, it still felt special seeing Sting compete for the big belt in a company no one thought he'd ever step foot in. During a turnbuckle spot, Sting got what is ironically known as a stinger. The injury to his neck forced him to retire not long after, though he did gain immediate admission into the WWE Hall of Fame. But unfortunately, that's it. That's the end of the run of one of the most legendary wrestlers in the industry. Brief and bizarre. What else can you say? The most insane thing about all of this is that WWE decided against capitalizing off the money match. The dream bout that wrestling fans have been drooling over for decades. Sting versus The Undertaker. The dream match that a simple Google or YouTube search will bring up dozens upon dozens of custom-made and edited wrestling promos. What a waste. But regardless, this doesn't damage Sting's career. At this point, he was already a made man. His legacy is untouchable. And while his WWE run wasn't full of fond moments like his WCW or, hell, even his TNA run, it still adds to his legacy. Now the icon can add a WrestleMania match and main eventing a WWE pay-per-view on his Legends resume. Solid work for the man named Sting. The writing team, though, not so much. Not so much. Sting's time in the WWE was limited, and not truly well spent. But considering that this was a man who claimed he'd never come to work for the big company up in Connecticut, the fact that he ever even stepped foot in a WWE ring makes this run legendary. I remember Patton Oswalt saying that the movie Blade Trinity was one of the worst movies of all time, which it is. But because of the fact that it actually got made at all, with all the behind-the-scenes issues and on-set drama, it puts it in contention with Citizen Kane. And I think that same logic could be applied to Sting's WWE run. Seeing Sting's painted face appear on Raw is like watching a Bugs Bunny cartoon and then seeing Mickey Mouse show up. It's like watching an episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! Only to find out that he's dueling Ash Ketchum. It's a combination we never thought we'd see, and regardless of its overall execution, the fact that it happened at all should leave everybody jaw-dropped. Even all these years later. So with that being said, I'm the Social Injustice Warrior V Infuso, and if you like the words that came out of my mouth hole and you too want to become a VTard, don't forget to like and subscribe. There's plenty more where this video came from. Follow me on Twitter because, hell, why not? It's not considered stalking if it's on the internet, am I right? And don't forget to join the Discord. I don't have anything catchy to add to that, but just join it. Just go do it. And if you have a free moment of time and a free $1 to spare, then head over to my Patreon, where for just $1, you too could help keep this boat afloat. And if you don't have that $1, but you do have a free moment of time, then hit the share button. It will help me out tremendously.
VTards, oh.